So let's go on to the next one, which was related to life experience. So this person sent a question saying, there's so much going on in my life. I feel overwhelmed and I'm trying to stay present and tell myself it's okay, but it's not helping. What can I do? So this is such a great question and such a common and familiar experience. So notice in the question how they said, I'm trying to stay present and I'm telling myself it's okay. So both of those are signs that the mind is involved, the intellect's involved. It's trying to do something. It knows there's something else available. It knows that there's a nicer experience available. It's heard that I'm all okay with all experience. And so it's like, this is the best that the mind can do. It hears stuff and it regurgitates stuff. And then it tries to regurgitate that stuff at the moment that something is happening, in the hope that it's the words which will do the trick. That if I just believe the words enough or say the words enough, if I just try and be present enough, then maybe that'll be okay. But the trying in itself is a sign that there's effort. In fact, trying is a sign that I think this is a problem, but I'm trying to pretend it's not. I'm trying to hope and wish that it isn't a problem, and in doing that, rather than perhaps avoiding it like I have done in the past and like escaping into something like work or food or drink or anything else, I've heard about the spiritual stuff, so I'm going to try and be present instead because I've heard that's better. And of course, it's healthier for the physical system when we are aware that presence to the moment is more impactful and more supportive than escaping out into some avoidance mechanism. But you can hear within it there's fundamentally a fear of the experience. It's like, oh my goodness, it's like this. It shouldn't be like this. I don't want it to be like this. I need it to change. I'm not okay with it being like this. Oh, but if I could just try and be present, if I could just try and be okay with it, maybe then I'll be okay. And it's just not how it works. The only way it works is when there is genuine presence with what is, when there is a genuine absence of resistance to what is, when there is a genuine absence of fear with what's being experienced. So in these situations, the most impactful thing to do is acknowledge what's actually going on right now. Instead of wishing or hoping or trying to pretend it's different than it is, it's just to be with it as it is right now and go, oh my goodness, this is too much. This feels overwhelming. This feels more than I can handle. And when we do that, we're coming into relationship with life as it is right now, with our world and our experience as it is right now. Instead of seeing our experience and then going, oh my God, no, I don't want that. Shouldn't be like that. And oh my goodness, I think I'm supposed to be present instead. Okay, let's do present, let's do presence, let's do presence. It's just not how it goes. It's just not how it works. And it's so cool because life will always teach us to genuinely come into presence. We can't fake it. The mind can't mimic genuine presence. So if ever we're trying, the reason it gets worse and worse and the reason it doesn't work is because we're not being rewarded for that approach. We won't be rewarded for trying to be present by being given the relief. What we will receive is more discomfort and more overwhelm and perhaps more irritation that I can't get it. Because that is the alarm getting louder to say, no, really, drop all of that. No, really be with this as it is. So it's really a super kind system. We literally cannot go wrong with it because it's always inviting us to come back to who we really are, to drop out of those whirlpools, out of the conceptual ideas of the mind, and come back to genuine presence with this right now as it is, with no need for it to be different, with no spiritual ideas of, oh gosh, but I've been in this so long, I should know this by now, or I should be better at this by now, or God, this is embarrassing, surely I shouldn't be feeling like this given everything I've read, all the courses I've been on, everything that I've experienced. No, just be present with this as it is, because this is how it is, whatever this is right now. And that's the freedom, that's the real presence with the life that we're wanting, not the kind that is imagining permanent flatline of Zen experience. The permanence is your essential nature. That never changes. This foreground experience always changes, always ups and downs like the river, always flowing, always with little ripples and waves. Who you are is the permanence, is the flat line, if you like, is the Zen, which never changes. And that's what's really wanted to be recognised, because then you are with this as it is. Because you, this you, the real you, the only you, is the one that is okay with all of it. And we just forget that when we temporarily identify with the whirlpools and it looks like this is a problem and it looks like it needs to be fixed or changed. So it's really amazing how life teaches us with this and shows us the way back home every time. So the next one, let's have a look. Cool, okay, this is kind of similar, but there's a slightly different angle to this one. I've had loads of insights about how my experience is created and seen through loads of untruth thoughts, like your whirlpools that you've talked about this week. But now my emotional experience seems so overwhelming that I keep reaching for avoidance strategies or I snap at loved ones. What am I missing? So I'd like to start by saying you're not missing anything. It's normal, and in fact it's part of what I've talked about, particularly in the awakening conversation that we had on day 3. Once something's been seen about that essential nature that we are, as I said that day, the lid is off. So all the contraction that's been held in the physical system, in the psychological system, believing I'm separate, believing I'm limited, believing I'm just this body and mind, there's a lot of contraction with that. And the minute we catch sight of the fact there's something I am that's before all of that, that's the lid coming off. That's the release and the relief and the relaxation, 3 R's, which is the feeling of our expansive essential nature. And in that expansion, even if it's just for a tiny moment, there is a releasing of those patterns of the whirlpools. Things which have been kept tight and contained are now able to move more freely. And depending on how much we've explored enlightenment prior to awakening, kind of determines how much there is to come out. Also depends on what our own volume of conditioning is like, and it seems like actually people with a lot of conditioning come into my world. I don't seem to get the ones who awaken, have a little bit of conditioning and are done. The people who come to me seem to have layers and layers and layers and very challenging life circumstances growing up or as adults, and so there's lots to be with, there's lots to bring love to. So anyway, the lid has come off, the thoughts and the feelings can now move freely again, like coming up for air. Oh, thank goodness, I've been kept down, trapped in this contraction all these years. Oh, I can breathe again, I can move again. And so in the movement of all these thoughts and feelings, much to our disappointment, thinking that awakening would bring us instant bliss and gratification, we must first of all move through this removing. Oh, that's never occurred to me before. Yeah, this removing, the movement again of the thoughts and feelings and emotions that have been kept stuck and contracted. And the only way is through. Because all our life we've tried to hold them down or cover them over with nicer stories. Or we've tried to avoid them and pretend they're not there. And that's not worked. Quite frankly, that's not worked. That's why we end up here in this conversation. So the only way is through and with them, not in avoidance, not in suppression or denial of them. So this experience, like this questioner said, of feeling more reactive, feeling snappy, feeling overwhelmed, it's because these things that have been kept at arm's length are now free to move. They're able to come out to play. Now the human in us hates that. The mind, which thinks, God, I've worked so hard to avoid all this stuff and paper it over and pretend it's not there, and now it's all coming out. What's going on? But it's so necessary. It's such a necessary part of the process. Because these things, their nature is to move. Their nature is to be free. Their nature is to come and be here a while and then go. We've been holding them against their nature. It's somehow, I don't know how we do that, but it seems to be what happens. It's as though we've held these moving, naturally moving patterns in stasis. And now that they can move again, they will move. They will come up and out. They will present themselves. And perfect. Because only through that happening are we able to do, in fact, what I responded to in the previous question, which is be present with them. Now that they're here, now I get the opportunity to be present and with them and absent of resistance to them. And that is the settling of them. I often liken them to that 2-year-old who wants their parents' attention. Mommy, 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 mommy. And it can be the smallest amount of attention that the parent gives to the child, but that's enough. That's all that was wanted. Some acknowledgement. They wanted to be seen. And then the kid goes back to playing or whatever else they were doing. Same with these. All these thoughts and feelings that want to be seen and understood, want to be acknowledged. And it doesn't take that much presence, especially if we're in a container with 2 of us together and being present together with it. And then that is the settling of it. It doesn't need to go. It doesn't need to be, I used that word removed before, it doesn't need to be removed. It just needs to be seen. We need to see that we don't need to be afraid of it. And then it stops asking for attention because it doesn't need to anymore. Now, sometimes we need to see it a few times before that happens. But ultimately that's what's being requested of us. Just to see it, just to be with it as it is. So as much as it seems kind of irritating to the mind that that these things happen post-awakening, it is a natural part of the process. It is something that is here to be moved through. The more we do that with presence, the more these things settle. The more there continues to be resistance to it, the more they'll just keep asking, mummy, mummy, mummy. So, yeah, really, presence is the answer again. And again, that can't be faked. That can't be a mind trying to be present with it, wishing actually beneath that it wasn't here. It must be genuine okayness with this exactly as it is. Then it sees that it's been seen, then it's been loved, then it's been understood, then it's been felt just as it is. And then it can go back to playing and moving and doing what it does naturally.